Good afternoon, Radiant Life Church. Thank you for sharing your lunch with me. I actually went and got some lunch. I put together some lobster bisque. I don't know if you can see it. It's almost gone. But want to invite you to eat some bisque with me as well on May 16th of this month. It's a Saturday at 6 o'clock. We are going to be doing a virtual soup and bread bowl, sourdough bowl, and we're going to be eating together at 6 p.m. and that's Pacific Standard Time. So if you're not in the neighborhood, you're not here in San Diego, you will have to go to a Panera and pick up your own bowl. But if you are in the area or can get to the area, we would love to share this time with you. It's something different, and people have been wanting to get in on this bisque for a long time, and I want to let you in on a really good thing. I'm a big fan of seafood. Love fish, love everything from the ocean, and want to share a story with you today. It's a fishing story, and no, I'm not going to tell you about the huge fish that I caught or the fish that got away. I will tell you that one of my best fishing moments ever was shared with former General Superintendent James Bond and his son Jimmy, and Bill Carr, my former district superintendent. And we had the best fishing day ever. Started off not being such a great day. We got out really, really early on the water on Lake Ontario, and we were going to fish for king salmon. And the weather was not cooperating. And I need to be honest with you. I'm surrounded by these men of faith, and they weren't very optimistic that day about the kind of day we were going to have. None of us knew really what to expect. But the sun did come out, and we caught 18 kings. And these seasoned fishermen told me that this would probably be the best fishing day I ever experienced in my life. And to date, they are right. I have not ever had a day like that where we were just, as soon as the line hit the water, we were bringing in fish. And we exceeded our limit. We exceeded the limit of the people on the boat. It was a really good fishing day. I also remember a time when I was fishing with my dad in Florida in 1980. And we went on this deep sea fishing trip. And I was sick the whole entire trip. I mean, I was laying down, and my dad was excited because he thought he had something very, very large on his line, and he did. It just wasn't a fish. It was a deep sea turtle, and we had to cut the line and let it go. But I want to talk to you about Peter today, and some of the disciples. They were out fishing. Actually, Jesus died on a cross. He was raised to life, and we saw Peter as, before the cross, he went outside and wept bitterly because he had denied even knowing Jesus, having a relationship with Christ. And we find him again here after the fact. He's been told that Jesus has been raised to life. But Peter goes back to where he was before Jesus called him. He goes back to fishing. He said, I'm going to go fishing. And his disciples said, yeah, we want to go fishing with you. So in the book of John, chapter 21, if you have a Bible, John 21, just want to read a few verses for you. I'm going out to fish, verse 3, Peter says. I'm going out to fish. That's what he tells the other disciples. And they said, we're going to go with you. So they went out. They got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. They had fished all night long. You know how discouraging it is when you go out fishing and you catch nothing? It's discouraging for me when friends of mine like Jack Santero go out fishing and it's catch and release. Like, they don't even eat what they catch. Jesus was all about catching and eating. So we're going to see that later on in the story because he was a big seafood lover as well. But it says that early in the morning, Jesus is standing on the other side of the shore. He's standing on shore, and the disciples didn't realize that it was Jesus. And he called out to them, friends, haven't you any fish? No, they answered. He said, well, throw your net on the right side of the boat, and you will find some. Now, these are professional fishermen. These aren't hobby fishermen. These are professional fishermen. And Peter was a professional fisherman, as were many of the disciples before Jesus called them. They left their nets, they left their boat, and they followed Jesus. We know that they all deserted Jesus when it came to the cross, and they're slowly but surely making their way back to Christ. But here in this picture, we see these disciples. They go back to what they knew. They go back to fishing, back to life the way it was before Jesus had called them. And they're not doing very well. And here's this guy on the shore telling them how to fish, telling them where the fish are. I mean, the greatest fish finder, Jesus. He's telling them where they can find the fish. And so they listen. I mean, instead of saying, like, who are you? I mean, later on, we see in this passage that they had thought about asking that question, like, who are you? Like, who are you? Like, who are you to, like, who are you? Well, they listened to Jesus, and it says that they threw their net on the right side of the boat. When they did, get a hold of this, when they did, they listened. When they did what Jesus asked them to do, they were unable to haul the net in because of the large number of fish. Then the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It is the Lord." And as soon as Simon Peter heard this, "It is the Lord," he wrapped his outer garment around him, for he had taken it off, and he jumped into the water. Now, Peter had jumped into the water before when Jesus asked him to get out of the boat. When Jesus appeared to them on the water, Peter was the only one who got out of the boat, walked on water for a while, and then took his eyes off of Jesus, and he begins to sink when he sees the distractions and all that's happening around him, the wind, the waves. He was fearful, and he started to sink, and Jesus reached out. He cried out to the Lord, "Save me." Jesus reached out and saved him. Here, he's not even given an invitation to get out of the boat, but he's so excited. He's so excited. Jumps out of the water and begins making his way to Jesus. The other disciples followed in the boat, towing the net full of fish, for they were not far from the shore, about 100 yards, it tells us. When they had landed, they saw a fire of burning coals there with fish on it and some bread. You see, Jesus always goes before us. Jesus had already made the provision. Fish was ready for them to eat. Bread was ready for them to eat. And Jesus says to them, "Bring some of the fish that you've just caught. We're going to continue to have a fish fry." So Simon Peter climbed aboard, dragged the net ashore. It was full of large fish. It tells us to count 153 fish. But even with so many in the net, it wasn't torn. Jesus said to them, "Come and have breakfast." None of the disciples dared ask the question, dared to ask him, "Who are you?" They knew it was the Lord. I want to take a few moments. I want to look at that together. They knew that it was Jesus. You know, it says in the book of 1 Peter 1:18, it talks about the empty way of life. It talks about the empty way of life. And life without Jesus is empty. This net serves as a symbol for us. An empty net. Nobody wants an empty net. I mean, have you ever been fishing and you just like hook onto something that you think is just huge, and then you discover it's a snag, or you actually reel it in and you discover that it's like a tree branch or like some debris? I mean, that's not fulfilling. That's not exciting. But these nets in this story are empty. And so I want to talk to you for a moment about when the nets are empty. When the nets in our lives are empty. We long for fulfillment. We long for purpose. We long for meaning. We long to be satisfied. And nothing in this world can bring satisfaction to us like the person of Jesus Christ. Only he can satisfy. So he says, throw in your net. Throw in your net. Throw in your empty net. Put your empty net over here. And when they put their empty net over here, could not just the amount of fish. This speaks to the abundance found in Jesus Christ. We have a Jesus Christ that more than satisfies. He said, I came so that you would have life, and life to the full. Life doesn't have to be empty. Life can be full. Life can be meaningful. God created us with a purpose in mind. And to operate outside of that purpose does not bring a sense of fulfillment. So he says, throw in your net. Put your net over here. And when they did, those three words, when they did, when they obeyed Jesus, when they listened to Jesus, who are you to tell me how to live my life? He's Jesus. He's Jesus. He's Lord. He knows all. And he wants to be in all. He wants to be involved. He doesn't want to just be a part of your life. He wants to be your life. Jesus knows how life works best. Life works with Jesus. Outside of relationship with Christ, outside of Jesus, there is no meaning, there is no purpose, there is no hope. And I just about spilled the rest of my lobster bisque, which would have been very painful. So may he fill your net today. May he fill your net. The nets symbolize abundance, symbolize his provision, symbolize guidance. When they listened to his guidance, when they listened to his wisdom, when they listened to his directions, when they followed his directions, we see what happened. They could not, they just were overwhelmed with blessing. Overwhelmed. Their nets were filled, and they were satisfied. So we see these things at work. And so I want to just challenge you just in the few minutes that we have together. And I don't know, you've heard this story before. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You've heard that before. And I want to challenge us today as we're thinking about the net, as we're thinking about our nets, as we're thinking about, abundance and provision and guidance, all these things. Like, I don't want to have my net filled with anything other than God's blessing, other than God's guidance, God's abundance. Can you imagine pulling that net up after listening and pulling it up and having all kinds of, sticks and debris and all kinds of junk in that net? That would not have been fulfilling. That would not have been exciting. But we have a Jesus who is alive, a Jesus who is one who offers us living hope and purpose and meaning and all these good things. So everything's wrapped up in the person of Jesus Christ. And so today, he will fill you. Today, he says, if you hunger and thirst for righteousness, you will be filled. We have a Jesus who can fill us. But more often than not, we look at Matthew chapter 6 and we get worried and we get all uptight and worked up about, everything in life that we need. Jesus says, you just need me. I'm a Jesus who can meet all of your needs. Don't worry about what you're going to eat, what you're going to drink, what you're going to wear. Don't worry about any of these things. This is what pagans chase after, what they think about. This is what they're trying to fill their nets with. All you need is me. So today, allow him to fill your nets, and you will be more than satisfied. God bless you. I hope that you have a wonderful week, what's left of it, and I look forward to seeing you on Sunday, and we're going to have a great day in the house of the Lord. So God bless you.